Okay, welcome everybody to the Wednesday afternoon meeting of the, it is Wednesday, BOCC. I think we are open with bid openings, which we'll turn it over to our clerk and she'll do that.
Yeah, this is Wednesday at 1:30 on May 8th. We're opening the Clammer River Road Culvert Replacement Project number 1317. And we have 6 bids. The first bid is from Swarford Excavating. The total cost to Cowlitz County would be $154,200. Next bid. This bid is from Odyssey Contracting LLC. Total cost to Cowlitz County is $125,000. Next bid. This bid is from Nova Contracting Incorporated. Total cost to Cowlitz County is $220,000. Next bid. This bid is from Compass Construction Northwest LLC. Total cost to Cowlitz County would be $105,300.
Excuse me, was that 105 or 195?
$105,300. Next bid. This bid is from SLE Incorporated. Total cost to Cowlitz County would be $229,943. And the last bid. This bid is from Advanced Excavating Specialists LLC. Total cost to Cowlitz County would be $168,825. And that's the conclusion of the bid opening. Thanks.
Excuse me. Okay. Next up is Public Works.
So good afternoon, Commissioners. Susan Eugenius, County Engineer. We're going to start off today with South Cloverdale Road project. I have a possession and use agreement that I'd like for the final property on the project that I would like permission for the chairman to sign so we can get this recorded.
Final property.
Final
Awesome.
property, yes.
Been a
So-
process, right?
It is, and then we have to go through, and this is, they've agreed that we're going to do the possession and use, and we're in the process of finalizing the dollars, but this will allow the project to move forward.
Great. Very good. Thank you.
So that's our South Cloverdale update.
Yay.
Overall on South Cloverdale, we had to pick up how many properties or pieces of how many properties?
I don't know the exact dozen, but
Half
it
a
was
dozen?
between, no, it was more like a dozen to a dozen and a half. Because it's over a mile corridor, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Is that at the intersection with Green Mountain?
So it's from Todd to Comfer.
Oh.
So
Yeah,
it
that's
goes-
a mile at least,
Yeah,
yeah.
it goes past the road shop, and through past various residents and the fire department on that corner of Todd. So we've worked with the fire department. We obviously gave ourselves an easement, and then all of the residents along there.
Wasn't there a big water tank put in a few years back in that general area?
I think it's to the north of
It's
that.
To the
Yeah.
north? Oh, okay.
But as part of this project, Kalama will be replacing their water line along that corridor. So that'll be done as part of this project.
So is that, was that just straightening out that area a little bit or adding shoulder or both?
Both, adding the.
For a bike lane, right?
For the bike lane, yes.
Yeah.
And replacing two.
Where's that buzzer?
And replacing two fish bearing culverts out there. And there's one of which is a pretty significant realignment in that section because of the curve. So,
So we did not have to go to court for any of those.
no, in the end, we did not have to
Yeah.
go to court. We're just working with their attorney to come to the final price agreement on this property.
Yeah.
That's the new gavel.
Yeah. Or his bicycle.
So just want to give you a quick update on the Cook Ferry dredge spoils removal. The contractor has started putting equipment in there this week and will be building roads. So it will be inaccessible to the public, the southernmost part for the near future. So we will hopefully, over the next year and a half, make a nice big hole so we can put some more dredge spoils in there.
Does this affect, when I look across from the Lions Park, I always see people down on that bank fishing. Does it affect any of them?
No, the entrance and driveway to the riverfront will still be open. It'll be just to the
Different,
parking lot
okay.
area. And then also just wanted to give you guys
See, the
press release there.
Press
So
release
that will
that-
be going out from us today. Keeping the process moving on that.
And for this, we've done that before on that piece of property, right? No?
Yeah, we did for the,
I thought there was
Oh.
one small.
We did a small agreement with Lexington Flood Control Zone District, and they removed dredge spoils about 2 years ago for one of their projects for the Corkle Creek Dam raise, detention structure raise. They did do that with an agreement.
So did we do this following the new mining ordinance, which we haven't yet approved?
So I would assume so, but it's a dredge spoil site, so that's
Yeah.
technically, depending on your interpretation of mining, dredge spoils don't necessarily apply to a.
Yeah. And I think that's true because the ports here were having concerns. And so I think they were real careful to make sure that this dredge was different than the mining activities they were
That's
talking
kind of
about.
what I'm at. Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's all for me today.
So while Savannah
So they're gonna
transitioning,
dig a hole? How about a trench that might carry water?
Be careful because then it becomes a wetland and there's a whole new set of rules and regs.
Well,
Well, you may
I got
need
a
to,
specific area in
Oh.
mind.
you may have an emergency ordinance that that hole needs to be filled, and the nearest place from which you can fill it is dredging there.
Right. Exactly.
All right, good afternoon, Savannah Clement, Public Works. So this morning, I wanted to give the board just an update. We went on a tour again to the old jail. This time we took some newer hires, including the whole risk management
Old
team.
jail, you mean in this building?
No, not that old.
Uh,
That's the first old.
Yes.
Second old jail at the Hall of Justice.
HOJ old.
HOJ old jail. There is thousands of like 45,000 square feet up there that is not utilized except for probably about 1,000 square feet for offender services.
Did you say 45,000?
That's correct.
That's the floor.
That's the floor, single floor. It's much larger than the other two floors because it extends over the north side of the building.
That's a whole acre.
It's a considerable amount of space. We didn't even tour the whole thing in an hour.
Yeah, that's correct. That's an acre. That really puts
It's a little
Yeah.
bit more, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've had a lot of discussions with Risk, and of course, our team on space and the need for space and storage throughout the county, and then also, of course, the need to clean it up and go through some things. So we did that tour this morning. It went really well. We actually brought HR with us as well. They've never been up there, and, you know, kind of maybe identified some future space that we could utilize for storage, and did some, you know, some more spooky tours throughout the rest of the building. So if the board would ever like to go up there, if they haven't in a while, you guys, we could schedule something there as well. And there's also the third floor annex that's utilized for storage. And then of course, the fourth floor here that's also utilized for storage. So
The fourth floor here is quite a bit smaller and it's quite a bit uglier, isn't it? Even though the fourth floor or at the HOJ is not handsome either.
yeah, none of them are great. This floor, up here, you're right, though. I would say out of all three spaces for storage, this would be I would utilize that space the least, maybe. We did have a cleanup event here that occurred a few years back with Randy Stoltenberg, previous facilities manager. So it is a little bit better, storage-wise and space-wise. It's cleaned up better than, say, the jail or annex.
The auditor has a lot of stuff up there, doesn't she? So those kind of records and stuff, or?
I believe they utilize the annex for their records and then some space down on the first floor of this building as well.
Have we ever used that area at the HOJ for evidence storage? Like we've had plans, or CCSOs had plans to build an evidence locker. And they might be thinking of impounding vehicles and all that wouldn't apply there, but I can't think of a more secure place for the drug stashing and all that kind of stuff.
I agree. We have talked about that with Sheriff Thurman as well as a potential option for storage for some more, I guess, secure. We do have departments currently utilizing the jail for storage. We have OPDs utilizing it, Superior Court Clerk's Office utilizes it. It just needs to have some upfitting done to continue that utilization with more divisions and departments. IT actually has storage there. It's just not, it's not completely, safe. We still have functioning jail doors with functioning pneumatic locking systems. So we'd like to make some changes after doing maybe another walkthrough, coming together as a team, and kind of developing a scope on what we could do with some of the space up there. Some of the ideas that have been thrown out are removing the jail doors, and actually just putting up like self-storage roll-up doors, something along those lines, so that it's safe and secure and it's per division and it's allocated as such. So we're kind of in the brainstorming phase of this. I did want to kind of just throw this out there to the board to see what you guys would think about us, perhaps going out and seeing what the cost would be to have a surplus company come in inventory what we have up there, get rid of the junk, and then potentially sell off anything that has value that we could potentially help pay for the service. We talked about that as well this morning, about the need to do that and clean that stuff up. It's been vacant about 10 years in some areas, 20 years in others. In some of the spaces, it just looks like you just left one day, you just never came back. There's clocks and calendars, and I mean, it's interesting. So,
Along those lines, there's a lot of vacant space in the building, apparently. OPD, we've struggled with where that
Yes.
they belong. They want it to be close. Is that too close?
I don't think the third floor is too close. There is certain soft spaces in that area that we could utilize for development, we'll call it, that could be repurposed in the middle section of the jail. It would be costly. We looked at that as a potential option because what's more secure than an old jail? You're going through security, you have elevator and stair access, but there would be a substantial cost to doing that. And we could look into that again, if the board was willing to support going that direction.
Where do we currently stand on the OPD? We're still paying
We,
exorbitantly by month.
we hope to come to the board actually next week, next Wednesday, to discuss where we're at. We have one more meeting that's occurring next Tuesday with Superior Court Judge Marilyn Hahn, that we might have another update on where we're at with that. But since you asked, I think with the way things are moving and with the lack of maybe a concrete direction on the hall, we would be proposing to stay there a little bit longer. But we're looking to find some space for them over there, and that's why we're trying to work with the judges to do that.
Yeah, you had discussions for rearranging.
Correct. I just haven't met with them
Well,
yet.
it just seems to me that, and I'm not trying to blame you or anything like that, saying, because I know what it's like to try to get cooperation. But we've got the resources to pull things together, or the space to pull things together.
That's what keeps me going.
Yeah. Okay, thank
It's
you.
there. We can reach it maybe. No, on those same lines, there was a consultant that we had, Jacola, who put together the therapeutic court space up at the jail for repurposing that area. As far as I know, I wasn't directly involved, but as far as I know, the project was abandoned due to costs. However, they were looking at a different area of the jail that would require a lot more invasive demo with the concrete walls. Like again, and Sean could maybe talk on this a little bit as well if you want to jump on, up to you. But as far as the middle area of the jail that has the softer spots that we could put in walls and, offices, it's a possibility.
Yes, Spanish said, the middle space is more the administration areas where the check-in offices and libraries and such things were. They're not the reinforced concrete block. There's glass windows that span half walls that can be demolished more easily than the concrete-filled reinforced block.
How much area you think is that middle, Sean? I know I'm throwing out.
Yeah, I would estimate somewhere between 10 and 15,000 square foot.
So it's decent size.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we do the air conditioning upgrades, would that take care of that floor
We did
too?
not propose doing any upgrades on that floor. but we
Is
could.
the system, it sounded like the system you're looking at, it had individual units, right? So would they be able to add it to if we made that?
I mean, that's always a possibility. The request can definitely be made. We could see if it would be just an added proposal they could give, just so we'd know. Sure.
Maybe added also retrofit? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the structure's in place, and then if you utilize it, it's not so hard to retrofit? I don't know.
I would imagine so with with their proposal that we've kind of been mulling over recently. One thing to note is there is a newer upgraded HVAC area in the jail. We actually saw it today, all new ventilation. Jail's all set up, well, the hall is set up in sections. So it's split in sections as far as the HVAC coverage, but there is a relatively newer section that's functioning. We could capitalize on that infrastructure as well if the proximity
Gotcha.
is close enough.
Gotcha.
So there's definitely options. We're hesitant to make any concrete proposals without knowing the direction of the hall.
Is that a
Well,
pun intended?
don't use concrete then, use wood.
Just been in my vocabulary a lot lately,
Oh.
concrete.
Yeah, and I get that, but anything we do, say we approve, we're gonna replace the hall, we're probably still a decade.
But
Mhm.
in
know,
truth, if you decided tomorrow that we had a plan, it still would be 4 years before
Yeah.
you could move into a new
Yeah.
building.
Mhm.
Well, I don't think those kinds of things to look at are inappropriate
Okay.
at all.
Now, just to be sure I understand, you're talking about for the Hall of Justice, and you're talking about using the smaller units and individually controlling them?
Right,
Correct.
Right, I think that's how we should go in general, because the heat loading is all over the map on that
too
building.
much area to run all that other,
There's that, and then this side gets sun,
yeah,
that side doesn't. This side has heat from above and below, and
yeah. Agreed. So the other thing you wanted to know is if it's okay to have a surplus company look and,
Just to get a ballpark, I'd get
Maybe-
some quotes. We wouldn't go out necessarily unless we had board approval to go out for a formal request to get that, but just to get a ballpark idea on, hey, how much would this cost? How much do you think we have here to get some money back to perhaps pay for it? And get that cleaned up.
now,
look mainly at that square footage that you think is usable, Sean?
I think there's a lot of metal scrap value throughout that building, especially the tables and bunk infrastructures and things like that. And then there is some probably more valuable equipment throughout there, such as ovens, ventilation items for the kitchen, things like that.
Dishwasher, yeah, there's a lot of infrastructure still there.
The kitchen area looks like they left and everything got left behind.
Mhm.
So
yeah, I'm thinking typically I would expect there's a company out there that does this kind of thing, and you don't pay them to do a study or look at it. They just come in and say, I'll give you $10 for the lot.
Mhm.
Right.
That, yeah,
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They could walk through and say, you got enough here that we'd be willing to pay you this for this equipment and we'll haul it out of here.
yeah.
and we're still kind of researching it. I wanted to make sure I had buy-in from the internal services team, which I think we do, and then bring it to you, the board, to see if that's the direction we're okay to go in. And then we can give you options on that front. We would work with the treasurer's office as well. Again, they had managed the last county auction that had to have been, I know I said this last time, 15 years ago or so, but, and go from there. So we can do that.
So I'm not sure there's anybody in the treasurer's office that was here then.
Yeah, I don't know. I
I
don't
think so. They're all
think
pretty
so.
recent.
Yeah.
I think the last long timer just left us, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Might be off though.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I know Deb was here before and then left and then came back, but
I think if we did a tour with the treasurer, I mean, I'm making assumptions, but she'd say, yeah, I don't want to deal with this. But I could be wrong. Maybe she likes a good, healthy challenge. On the same front of the Hall of Justice. Oh, sure.
This is gonna probably be misunderstood, but our job is to provide adequate, reasonable facilities for the operations of the county. And whenever you try and include a lot of stakeholders, there's always, I don't want to move, I gotta have this, gotta have that. I'm really counting on you to use the expertise which you've shown any number of times of taking a look at something and saying, this is reasonable, this can be done. Somebody says, well, but that used to be my place. I mean, just.
Yeah.
I'm willing
Yeah.
to press the issue on, is what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
No, I totally agree. I trust that I've witnessed enough that they're gonna come back with a reasonable thing, and then if we take the heat, if it makes somebody a little uncomfortable, that's,
Yeah.
besides, you can just blame Mike.
Well, he's not here and that's
Yeah.
always easy to do. But, as a team, we appreciate that. It
in
has been
about
challenging.
7 months, I'll be blaming 2 guys that,
It's already started. I
Yeah.
think.
and until those doors don't work, I don't know if I'm taking a tour. I could be there the whole weekend.
Yeah, we made a
I
disclaimer.
may need the buzzer back.
Yeah. We did make the disclaimer, do not let any door close behind you. And we had head counts this morning before we went in and when we left. So nobody should be trapped up there. Along the same lines of the Hall of Justice in this space study, we have asked Collins, our architect on call, just to put together a scope of potential costs to look at the reasonability of either modifying the Hall of Justice or constructing a new building. So they're just going to give us some cost proposals on what the cost would be to tell us that. So I'm giving you a heads up on that as well. We're expecting that later this week or early next week.
Really?
Not the entire project, just what it would cost them to give us that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not the,
Their fee for doing. the
yeah,
work.
just the fee for presenting those two options. And then we would give them the green light or red light moving forward.
Real good.
Okay.
Can you hold that off for about 6.5 months?
I think I, out of order.
So I wanted to touch on what our progress is on the ADA transition plan. We're holding our second open house next Tuesday at 6 p.m. in the event center, and that will be presenting what our inventory has found, the results of our online survey, and setting priorities moving forward. We are anticipating having that report in draft form in June sometime. We'll leave it out for public comment, and then it'll be brought to the board for adoption after some workshops and public comment period. This will help Public Works set their program for replacing sidewalks and ADA ramps in our area that we have those facilities.
And the bicycle lanes.
That we are not addressing bicycle lanes in this report. I'm
That's
sorry.
clearly a failure right there.
You're not suggesting, Arn, that if you're a bicyclist, you're disabled? You're not making that leap, are you?
No, but not specifically so, but there are some remarkable people on bicycles with artificial legs.
Good point, yeah.
Yeah. But part of the problem was in the very first sentence, I didn't hear one little piece. And then subsequently, I was trying to piece together, what are we talking about?
Well, the eight-
So we're talking about our American with Disabilities Act transition plan for,
Now I understand.
yeah, for our sidewalks, our public works facilities. So we're addressing sidewalks, curb ramps, and if we were a city that had lots of stoplights, it would be the push buttons on your crosswalks at your signals.
And at the rate development is happening in Lexington, there may be some stoplights established there.
They may be.
Although mostly state highway.
They would mostly be state highway under their jurisdiction, so.
If it's state, I would guess it'll be roundabouts.
Unless you move the dikes, this might be difficult for roundabouts.
It
A long
could,
part of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
very tight.
Well, you can go up one side and
Oh, velodrome?
Yeah.
actually, that's one thing I should try with Brian Magnuson is to push for a velodrome at the event center. You know, his plans,
That'd be,
seeing as there aren't very many around, that would actually bring in a fair amount of tourists,
mhm.
if you call the cyclist tourists. No, I won't say much about what kind of person is a cyclist.
Okay, and our last item is an ARPA request update. So about 6 weeks ago, maybe a little less, we came and requested some large ticket items under ARPA's direct qualification. And one of those items was our water sewer meter infrastructure upgrades. And so there were some questions on that and follow-up. We hope to bring that back to the board next week. for a more in-depth proposal addressing hopefully some questions, concerns. Unfortunately, with Patrick leaving, he's our utilities engineer. It kind of slowed down our ability to kind of come back to the board. But we hope to do that here in the near future, if not next week. So that's my hope. So just want to give you a heads up on that. My other update for ARPA is the other request that we had come to the board with was on parks funding through ARPA dollars. So we had just a refresher, about $200,000 that was already approved, I think last year, that was in the direct qualification. So we came back and asked for more. Upon working with the auditor's office and researching that, they had concerns, legitimate concerns that maybe we weren't going to be eligible for that funding within direct qualification, which is a bummer. So if you recall, the other side of the funding is the revenue replacement, which is much, much easier to, it's really anything that the board approves, which is probably loose, but around there. So we have all of our parks requests as backup plans under revenue replacement for anything that falls through or doesn't complete their funding or doesn't get allocated in time. That is going to be our larger Plan B project. However, I've been pretty aggressive in trying to secure funding and other avenues. We have applied for RCO grant match monies. And then if you recall, Sean mentioned earlier about the Cooks Ferry dredging, and our contract has a minimum $300,000 threshold. So working with Parks Board, working with Alyssa, I'm hoping to earmark with the board's approval in the future those funds for a legacy park upgrade towards that and towards grant funding matching. So we're still working internally on getting the additional funding. We need about $200,000 more that we can say, okay, let's move forward. So I just wanted to give the board an update on that and where we're at. And I'm sure working with Kaylee and Camilla, when they give you their quarterly update, they're going to be talking about that as well. I don't know when that will take place, but
So is part of that the resurfacing of the,
that was good to go. The
That was good to
resurfacing
go?
was,
Okay,
yep,
good.
totally fine as far as that was a $100,000 revenue replacement. The revenue replacement ARPA dollars don't have enough for our parks requests.
Okay.
So,
I know she was, I think, it sounded like she was pretty good to go on that.
yep, yes,
Yeah.
that one's good to go.
Okay.
And qualifies.
All right.
When would you anticipate then that parks will need more personnel?
It's a great question.
Because we've been adding small programs, but eventually it does add up to maintenance
Yes.
needs.
In a perfect world, in a perfect parks world, getting the legacy play structure, the pump track, really sprucing up our, Harry Gardner Park with the RVs and tent sites, probably adding 2 more bodies within the next 2 to 5 years. I'm not on the parks board. I've read the parks count plan. I would personally love to see that program grow. Parks are important in a community, in my opinion, as being a Cowlitz County resident as well. So I would be continuing to push for improving our parks as funding's available. So you would probably want to grow staff.
But not within the next 6 months.
No, not in 6 months. We do have summer help
I get buzzed.
coming on.
No buzzer?
Say he's right on the edge.
I mean, or should I? Should I come like in December? But that's all we have unless the board has any questions, comments.
Looks like you're good.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Actually, I could ask a question that I think you've already answered. We signed the first part about 3 weeks or a month ago for the PUD stuff. And what's the next milestone time?
Do you want to talk about that?
So currently, we're still going through some of the Southwest Clean Air and Ecology. The SEPA has been completed there.
Are they the long pole?
Come again?
Are they the long pole? Is that
Mhm.
what?
And then we would expect some sort of spend by the end of this year.
Huh?
We would expect to have some sort of spend on that project by the end of the year for long lead items and things.
We've got those tax credits that disappear at the end of the year, so.
Yes.
It's got to be encumbered, I think.
Correct.
Mhm.
As far as administratively, our next big step that we'll be working on is the contract.
Yeah.
The larger scope contract with PUD.
And then when does the check get cut? Not until later, Does that come at the.
I
end of
would
the
say
project?
after the contract's executed, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, so it's gonna depend on when, the final sign-offs are done by Ecology and Southwest Clean Air. And then we, order the long lead items like generators and wire and such things like that, that have 50+ week lead times on them. And those would probably be the first spends from our side, and that'd probably encompass the full $6 million.
Do we need to contact the Clean Air Agency to let them know we think it's important?
I think the district has a really good hold on that, and I know they've.
As a what, sorry?
I think they have a good hold on that side of it already.
Okay.
They've been working really hard on that from my communications with them.
Good. Okay. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you gentlemen want to have it sounded like, want to have a discussion on chaplaincy at all? In the property over there?
Yeah.
Okay. I know you've been working on that. You want to lead off on that?
Yeah, and I think LA has contacted all of us about some kind of an assistance, and I said, I said,
But
you know,
just to note, she would be here, except she had a court
Yeah.
appearance. and
Right.
stuff.
that's okay, because we don't have any clarity, I don't think, from Doug's office yet. He gave us an advisory that wasn't very encouraging. What the idea that I've kind of floated is, if we take that site and look at the garages, I think there's 2 separate garages.
Yeah.
And maybe say, let's buy that portion for, storage for the sheriff. Pay for that part of it out of the Law and Justice Fund. Okay. And, then for the daylight basement, have that transformed into a respite area for first responders, which had been a need during an emergency, and that then possibly is a legitimate expense from ARPA funds. And that would only leave the one other area out of our general funds, which we would then rent. You know, you can't give it away, but we'd rent it and ask them to be the property managers. And that's kind of what I've asked. I sent a memo to Doug to see if that gets around the restrictions. We can clearly rent to them. You just have to make sure it's a legitimate amount.
I don't like having to decide whether this organization versus another organization is worth putting taxpayer funding at risk kind of thing. So I think I'm comfortable with us buying the property. So the county owns it. So we're going to put out a chunk of money, yet its value, it's an asset that the county still has. And in the short term, maybe it won't be such a good investment, but in the long term, it will be. It's in a good location. So then I would want to do a contract with the chaplaincy where they lease the whole thing. And I know we should, and this is where the attorneys come in. I think we should be able to do that for a nominal amount, like we rent the Janus the house for $1 a year or something like that. So,
Unless the religious connection makes it that kind of a deal, not,
except it's non-denominational and,
but it's still religious, so.
yeah,
That's a legal question for him to decide. Yeah, let us know.
right. But that way, if we could agree on that, then that would be something we could push for. It's the simplest thing, except for the contract would have to be, you maintain the property. I mean, it'll be on their shoulders to make sure it maintains as a operating and so forth, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think we've talked before, I think we're all in agreement that we're okay purchasing the property, we're not gonna get hurt on that, and then how you have to go about that and how you utilize it. If, I can tell you, I know the facilities district has talked about that too, because for future expansion, they'd use it for storage and different things, so I know at some point in time, it's gonna have some real we're gonna get everything we put into it back.
Yeah. Good.
So where do we go from here? I guess Calais was feeling like she needed an answer. Oh, I know what it is.
They said they had an offer.
Yeah.
And they're still willing to make it available for the Champlain's use for the county, so she's a little bit worried about times
Yeah.
running out.
So I think the answer back, what I'm hearing is we're still in favor. We're just trying to figure out how it can be structured, right?
So who does the negotiation in terms of price, which can't be set here, of course, but
Right.
that's where an executive session would need to come in, but
We do have on call a realtor. We went out to contract for the county to use a realtor for these
For these
types
type
of
of things?
things. Yes,
Yeah.
and they're on contract currently. So if talking on that front, I would utilize that.
any direction from us to engage him to,
Like, yeah, sure, yes.
But we need the okay from our legal that says there is a way for us to do that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think once legal tells us that the path we're choosing, we can live with,
So
then
are-
I don't have any trouble engaging a realtor.
are you comfortable if we say today that we delegate Rick with the decision-making, once he gets the report, to give them the direction?
Oh, I'm absolutely comfortable with that.
So why don't we do it that way, we, it doesn't matter, we don't need a quorum, as soon as you get the note, you can let
As soon as
Savannah know.
legal tells us we're okay with this, and I can sit down with
Yeah.
Savannah and we can negotiate with the realtor. Or engage the realtor.
Right. All of the
If
above.
you can get them to yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha.
You never know what questions or exceptions or whatever he comes
I
up
gotcha.
with, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that clear? Okay.
Yeah, I'll wait for the direction of the board. Mhm.
Super. All right.
I just don't see how we get hurt on that.
In the
that piece
short run,
there.
you can always get hurt. In the long run,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I just, I always think back to how we resolved some of the financial and uncomfortability out at the shooting range. We finally had an appraisal of the value
Yeah.
added to that property with all the improvements.
I got
And and it was like, what, 5 times what was owed on it? That's an example of,
I got a question.
yeah,
on the-
except that one I still have heartburn on because it was just a game as opposed to, right today, if you needed to do something with the shooting range, I don't think it's economically viable. And we invested in it when I don't think we probably threw it out in the open and had a good discussion on it. Just my impression on that.
I've never really
It-
looked at the operation of it, but
Yeah, it only has held its own because of the volunteer labor.
yeah. Are they doing something out there Saturday? Cause somebody got an invite and they asked me if I knew about it, and I said, I don't know.
They are having their anniversary celebration, and is it 10-year anniversary? It's a 10-year
Yeah.
anniversary.
could be pretty close to that. That's about.
Yeah, and they really promoted it heavily a few months ago. I haven't seen anything really recent, but yes, it's a Saturday. There's an event there.
11 o'clock or something like
Yes,
that.
yep, at the gun range celebrating. They also have our 3 new trap ranges, or 2 new in addition to the old. So they've been hosting a lot of events out there with the high school trap shooting groups.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, those are the ones with our pictures on.
No,
They're,
that's in the Leo range.
Yeah.
um, And then also they'll have a really large event this September, and they're hosting a Pacific Northwest event. And I can come back with more information, but it's supposed to be really huge this fall.
Well, I may have to take back what I said. It may eventually,
Well, it'd be interesting to just dive in a little bit into some of the financials on there. I know it's coming up anyway because the lease is running out, right?
It'll be done the end of next year. Mhm.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to take a look at it anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when the county will have to decide who to hire.
Who'd have voluntold to do it. So,
I think Mike goes hunting regularly.
again, he's not here to defend himself, so.
Yeah.
and I guess tomorrow, Rick and I are going to the box plant.
1:30 to the box plant opening? Yeah, that'll be fun to see. And,
The place won't be it will be as clean as it will ever be.
yeah, yeah,
That's true. That's
it'll
true.
be good. It'll be fun to see. That was a good project. And today we have school pictures at
Oh, yeah.
3:30. Where are we at? Down in elections office. Carolyn's taking them?
What time?
3:30.
There's time for you to go home and put on a full suit.
No, I just have Cowlitz Transit meeting at 4, so can't take too long.
We'll let you go first.
I imagine if you went down right now, they would do it.
It's not a group shot? Individual shots?
Individual shots?
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
You're gonna AI it and put the former Mr. Universe body under us?
Yeah. That won't work. Okay, anything else, gentlemen? Okay. Yeah, I think that was was it the chaplaincy that? you
Yeah,
wanted?
it was the chaplain.
Okay, okay, so we're good.
Thank you.
All right, we'll adjourn. Thank you.